Riverdale sometimes deals with disturbing and problematic topics. We provide a list of content warnings in the episode description. Hello and welcome to Dead Ends. I'm Emily.
I'm Brenton.
And we have 2 new episodes of Riverdale for you. And if you're watching the YouTube, because I know Brenton wants to talk about it, we got new microphones. You can actually see most of my face now. I don't look like the neighbor from Home Improvement anymore.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
Yeah. So you have to let us know quality-wise if it sounds any better, worse, the same. Unfortunately, I don't know jack or shit about audio engineering. So Brenton's really your go-to person on those complaints.
Yeah, and on the audio version, how do we sound?
Yeah.
Because that's where you'll notice it the most, I assume.
Oh.
That'd be my assumption.
And hopefully you'll hear less of me smacking into my microphone stand because
Tong.
that happens a lot.
Tong.
I am so sorry.
It's not that bad.
It's like a Catholic church in here.
Relevant to this week's episodes.
It is, except that I have a lot of questions because I got confirmed at 17.
Yeah, we step into Catholic corner in the second episode.
But I do think culturally, like, it really depends, and in different areas, you used to do it in like 8th grade, I feel like.
Confirmation?
I think like my mom did it when she was like younger.
Whoa, that's weird.
I could be wrong.
She's in high school, so I kind of understood that, even if it wasn't. Oh, wait, no, that's probably around when I did mine. Did I do it in 16, 17?
I did mine at 17.
Yeah. I probably wasn't 17 yet. But it was like
the year. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was after I turned 17.
Yeah. But there's a lot.
That's the last time I went to confession.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
I've go to confession before.
You waved goodbye. My obligations are done.
My friend Taylor was like, you should go before you get confirmed, because she was very, very Catholic, like homeschooled Catholic. Homeschooled by choice. Her parents were willing to let her go to a public high school. But anyway, not the point.
Her choice or her parents?
Her choice.
Oh.
Yeah, no, get it, girl. She's doing like junior college classes too. Like, I got no tea, no shade on that. But she was like, you should go to confession, because I told her about most of my life. And so
don't tell me anymore.
And so I did. And then I was like, why the fuck am I doing this? Like, I do not care what this bald white man thinks of me.
I'm pretty sure you were like supposed to do it, right?
Yeah, you're supposed to go, but like they weren't taking a tally. It's not like there's an attendance record of who goes to confession.
Now here I am thinking that there was, and I'm thinking back. I'm like, did they?
Maybe at your Catholic school, but not like if you
maybe at home, but
yeah, like you.
I was at a Catholic school by then.
That's true. Yeah, I just went to confession. Like, yeah, I just went on the night you went. Like, I think it was like Saturday nights or whatever, before the Saturday night mass. You could go to confession.
Yeah. I mean, we went around holidays like Christmas and Easter anyway, so confession was a regular thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not even my mom was like, no, it's stupid. My first confession, I lied.
Yeah. Because
he was like, okay, what have you done? And you're like 7, 8 years old. Like, I had committed very few sins.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
He's like, well, did you lie to your parents? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I can't account for the first 4 to 5 of these last 7 to 8 years. I got almost like no memories. Right.
And it's like, what did you lie about?
Yeah, exactly. Or he'd be like, well, were you mean to your brother? And I'm like, when he was mean to me? Like, what do you mean?
Father, if you lived at home in my house.
What do you mean? It's like, well, have you stolen anything? And I'm like, from where? Like, have you met my mother? You think I stole something?
Yeah, it's funny. They start you so early on confession, but it's really not, there's no reason for it.
Children should not be going to confession. You literally don't have the consciousness to like even really choose to sin.
No. Mm-mm.
It's impulse control at worst.
Yeah. It's what at least, I think like
teaching little kids impulse control is more important than teaching them to feel guilty for the fact that they struggle with impulse control.
Well, that's not the Catholic way, though.
No.
You
guilt
have to
and
go
shame.
Exactly. Guilt and shame. Go to the Father. He's going to get that all off your chest.
Yeah. And then
now, whether you make corrective actions or you just build up that bill back to when you go back to confession.
And then it's all wiped away.
Yeah.
I never really felt like it was all wiped away. Did you?
No.
Well, I'd be like, okay, now I can't sin anymore. And I'm like, well, that's not going to last for very long.
You gotta.
Everything's a fucking sin.
Yeah. But that is the thing that gets accurate in this episode. Everybody's all the tias and abuelita are talking about like all the things they pray for and go to confession for. And it's like, yeah, because the tally's just going to get bumped back up. Well,
let's get right into
it. More Catholicism to come, but we'll talk about the cast for this week.
And Papa Poutine. But first,
Papa Poutine makes me hungry. I love poutine. I tell you. Okay, so cast for this week. I just have two guest stars for this week. So we have Graham Greene first as Thomas Topaz, who is a Canadian First Nations actor from the Oneida tribe. So, which is, where was it? One of the 5 founding nations of the Iroquois Confederacy in the area of upstate New York, particularly near the Great Lakes. So that makes sense of why that'd be, I guess that'd be up more toward like Toronto and Ontario up there. But Graham Greene started out started acting and being in like the theater company on his reservation, but then in 1984 and 1986 appeared in the First Nations CBC television series, so Canada, Spirit Bay, and he was Pete Baba Green. And apparently the show is one of the first to show Aboriginal life and interactions between like indigenous and like white cultures. So it's like, yeah, that's pretty interesting.
It's very cool that they then brought him in for this particular thing too, because when we get into the episode, it's mostly Jughead being a white person in the way.
Yeah. They do.
The plot lines are Jughead's being a white person in the way. Cheryl realizes her family committed genocide. Archie is in a pissing contest with Hiram Lodge. And being a webcam girl / guy.
We'll get back to that in a sec. But so that it makes sense because he's known for playing indigenous people on film. Specifically in the U.S., international fame for Dances with Wolves. Okay. Shout out to my mom. This is one of her favorite movies. The Kevin Costner movie. It earned him an Academy Award nomination. But one of those people with CV a mile long was another indigenous role in Twilight Saga New Moon. He was Harry Clearwater.
I was going to say, he's in the Twilight franchise.
Exactly. And then was recently in Reservation Dogs, which is, I haven't watched the show, but as far as I understand, is a better depiction of like indigenous life, like modern day. And then was also recently in The Last of Us TV show. So doing good work out there. All right, you spoke about him. You introduced him. This is MC Gainey as Paul Boucher, a.k.a. Papa Poutine, one of the best names in the show.
The best name in the show. And the fact that they make KJ Apa deliver a line where he's like, Papa Poutine is trying to kill you, Hiram, basically. And that boy does not laugh. I don't know how many takes it took. Maybe he did it in one. I don't know. I'm not here. I don't know if I could do it. They don't pay me the big bucks. Like, I don't think I could do it. Papa Poutine's trying to kill you.
And oh god, Mark Consuelos kind of is constantly being like, "Yes, this is Papa Poutine, one of the most fearsome mobsters."
But because I feel like he was on a soap opera forever, I feel like
because he's a professional.
He really, you know what I mean? Like he can really just dig into it. But I'm like, these young people, like that's hard. Not saying it's not hard for him too, but you know,
right?
I am not shocked by his skill set.
Fair enough. So one thing that I thought was funny off his Wikipedia, he was a mortician's assistant before he decided to study acting.
Wow.
Again, lots of minor roles, CV a mile long, so I'll pull out a few things. Con Air. He was in Terminator 3. I think he's in Sideways, the wine movie where they're up in Solvang.
Oh,
really from the mid-aughts. The reason I know him is from Lost. So we'll when we eventually get to that. No, we don't got to talk about it. But I'm like, oh my god, that's where I know him from. But also in tons of TV, like in Burn Notice, Justified, CSI, Criminal Minds, like all this type of character. But was also in Rapunzel's Tangled Adventure as Captain of the Guard.
Wow. So a little voice acting.
Uh-huh. Isn't that exciting?
Very exciting.
Yeah. So there you go. Those are our cast for this week. But I do have some behind the scenes stuff, as in our director for our first episode this week. So we'll jump over to that real quick. All right. So our first episode this week is Chapter 24, The Wrestler. There's two different movies that this potentially comes from, and both don't really fit, in my opinion.
I think they just like titles.
Yeah, but it's like looking at what it comes from and then looking at the movies. Because there's a 1974 where there's aging wrestler who's in professional wrestling who's feeling pressure to like pass the championship belt off to the next guy but doesn't want to retire. And then in 2008.
Do you not think that that's like Hiram not wanting to give Veronica over to Archie, metaphorically? I'm not saying it's a one-to-one.
I guess you can make the connection. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But this is like more of like Archie trying to show he's a man. Yeah, that's right. I get what you mean. And then there's the 2008 film, which is the one I know, with Mickey Rourke, where it's an aging professional wrestler who like doesn't want to like drop out of wrestling because he's like his body's breaking down. He's got all these injuries and stuff, and was like a success in the 80s, but like still continues to wrestle even though it's like bad for his health and all that. Mm-hmm. But I remembered, and when I was looking it up, that this was directed by Greg Araki, who's a famous, more independent filmmaker, specifically from his films in the 90s. He's was involved in the new queer cinema movement. So he had it was called the Teenage Apocalypse film trilogy, that went from 93 to 97. Totally fucked up the dude generation and nowhere. And he actually has a movie coming out next year, that I Want Your Sex, with Olivia Wilde, Cooper Hoffman, and Charlie XCX. So I'm assuming we're all going to be talking about Greg Araki a lot more this year.
Okay.
And then weirdly enough, 13 Reasons Why keeps coming up in all this background stuff. He directed 4 episodes of that. I don't know what to make of it, but I mean, it keeps happening. And then for us, he grew up in... You know what I mean?
I don't know what to make of it, but it keeps happening. It was like contemporary of this time, wasn't it?
I guess just like how big 13 Reasons Why was.
It was like I feel like it was one of those early, like really big on Netflix things.
And I feel like it was like the first season and they maybe only did a second one. Can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't watch it because I did not really want to consume the subject matter.
No. And then for us, he grew up in nearby Santa Barbara and went to UCSB.
Wow.
So there you go. But he did this interview, and I remember reading this with Vulture, where it was about his show in 2019. But he talks about like Riverdale and kind of like his thoughts on some of the things. And the interviewer asks, it's like, I was hoping you could explain why they were wearing T-shirts under their singlets. And he's like, it was a network note. Archie was not. And I mean, he's the lead of the show. He was the most like... And he goes on to talk about like he kind of like jabs at that, like they really objectify KJ Apa, but without saying that, he's like, oh, they're like really objectifying him. He's like, it was like the gayest thing I've ever seen. And I've done a lot of gay movies. Wait,
so are they not supposed to wear shirts, or are they supposed to wear shirts under the singlets?
I don't think they were supposed to wear shirts.
Okay, and then they sometimes do and sometimes don't in the episode.
I think, yeah, it's like specific. It seems like Archie does, but a lot of like Kevin does.
But Archie wears a shirt in some of the scenes too.
Oh, maybe it's only at the end.
It's only at the end that like it seems like none of them are wearing the shirts anymore.
A couple other pieces.
But you know what I mean? I didn't keep track. It's also like when they're playing basketball, the shirts and skins, Reggie and Archie are not wearing shirts, but like all the extras are wearing shirts.
Yeah. Well, in that scene, it's the Serpents.
Oh.
Yeah, so they're playing against like Sweet Pea.
I didn't like put that together. I was just like, oh.
Yeah. I didn't really notice the uniform thing, but I did remember that Sweet Pea was playing, like driving on Archie.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so it's like, it was shot very sexily. It's like why they hired me, I guess. But Riverdale and Teen Wolf and all these shows, they're all made by these super gay creators, right? And they all have these super hot guys in them, but they're teased because all they ever do is get naked, take a shower, slap each other. Like, I get it. I get there's this gay sensibility at work, and they're objectifying this guy to a ridiculous degree, but they feel almost frustrating. And it's, I think what he's like trying to get at was that they like, here's actually a more illustrative quote. He's like, anything they can do to gay bait the audience, they do, but they all do it. It's like, what's his face, Nick Jonas. It's just like, I'll pose in my underwear and like grab my crotch, like show my ass. And he's like, it's whatever. I'll do anything, but I'm still straight. So it's like the fetishization of guys using like queer context, but then they're like still straight within the context of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, things I don't think about,
Very much so. And it's interesting because like I always want to compare it to like how we treat women and how we fetishize women.
Mm-hmm.
And teen shows kind of like are the place where men tend to get the most objectified in comparison. You know what? It's not 100% true. There's other avenues and places, but it's interesting. It's an interesting concept.
Mm-hmm. And then I think going off what that piece you were just saying there, then we already have like where say Archie's not kissing other guys, but in the pilot where Veronica and Betty are kissing for like a fake like, but we're like playing with like gay baiting like kind of thing.
Yeah, and we will always pull the like, girls kissing girls is hot, and it's still four guys. Which is just
yeah.
I mean, I want them to kiss, but like of their own volition.
Exactly.
Romantically.
Mm-hmm. Right. So it's interesting where those lines are and how they're kind of like how that threads into here too of like sexuality.
I'm still waiting for one of my favorite relationships to come up on this show, and I'm gonna feel like I don't have to wait that much longer.
I don't think so either. I think in the next season maybe. But anyways, all right, let's get on to the episode summary. 1 week after Southside and Riverdale integration, the town is preparing to honor their founding father, George Pickens. Cheryl gives a presentation. She's like, actually, it was my great-grandpappy that allowed General Pickens to win. And
he funded everything, right?
Yes. And it's like, if it wasn't for him, and like I've petitioned each year to have the holiday renamed after him. The lodges, Sheriff Keller, Mayor McCoy, plus Fred and Veronica. What a motley crew. They talk about how to make the South Side and North Side feel better. And then the lodges and Fred want to fundraise Pickens Day and like have both sides attend. And then if they could put nice Sodale like project like banners over everything, and Mayor McCoy and Sheriff Keller are like, no, you don't just get to advertise. And the lodges are like, here's how we'll fix it. We'll hire the serpents as bodyguards and security for the event. Archie comes home and he's like, what are you guys all doing here?
Why they had this meeting at Fred Andrews' house is literally anyone else's home makes sense.
It's really funny. Chic has breakfast with the Cooper family. Hal grills him on his background, and Chic says he was attacked by the guy who runs the hostel he was living at. The guy's name is Marcel, and Chic didn't want to work that night. Marcel's also the ones who's like, I give you clients and whatnot, and Chic's like, I don't want to work that night, so he got beat up. Chic and Betty both realize they have scars on their palms from digging their nails in their hands. Agent Adams shows Archie that his dad has immunity. He's like, I've got the paperwork all signed up for you.
I was like, okay.
Here's these tests we ran on his blood. He's immune to the virus. Archie tells him about the legal immunity, I should say. Archie tells him about the meeting at his house and doesn't tell him that Veronica was there and wants to speed things up to like clamp down on Hiram. And Agent Adams is like, well, you need to get closer to him. Betty shows Veronica and Kevin pictures of Chic, and Kevin thinks he's hot, and he's like, he looks familiar. Veronica tells her to bring him to Pickens Day.
Which we always know is going to be like an amazing plot line when Kevin's like, I know him.
You would think, and it's like, because even in this scene, they go like from cruising in the woods. He's like, no, it's not that.
He's like, maybe, but I don't think so.
Yeah. Jughead is pissed that serpents were only invited as security to Pickens Day. He goes off with Tony to interview her for his oral history report, and Betty is annoyed and like saddened by them going off together.
Going to interview her grandpa, sorry.
Yeah. Archie asks Veronica about Hiram not liking him, and he asks for suggestions to help. And Veronica shows him that Hiram was captain of the wrestling team back in the day, and he's obsessed. Lodge Industries bankrolls the team, and Archie's like, well, I'm game. I was going to like drop basketball this year anyway. Jughead visits Tony's grandfather.
Like
Thomas.
At least Hiram like funds things. Yeah. Like for a wealthy person, at least he's like, sure, he's doing bad things too, but he's also funding a local sports team. Can you say the same for our oligarchs?
Well, that's true. At least if you shut down Southside High, then
I'm not saying he's a good person.
somewhere. But yes, I understand.
I'm
exactly.
saying do one good thing
At least.
out of every 1,000. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And he keeps his children to his family.
Keeps his children to his family.
And
I understood what you meant.
it's not much worse than what I tried to say.
He's not trying to repopulate the earth.
Yeah, and mailing his seed to people. Now that one I did make the sound worse.
Are you writing a romance novel? His seed.
Oh God, I don't want to imagine an Elon romance novel.
Oh, I bet there's horrible Elon fan fiction out there. Please do not send that to us.
You will be banned from the show. Jughead visits Tony's grandfather, Thomas, who was one of the original members of the Serpents. The Serpents were actually originally from the Ukatane tribe, which were indigenous to Riverdale, and were, coincidentally slaughtered by General Pickens. Who could thunk it? When his grandfather died, they formed the Serpents to stick together. Veronica talks Veronica talks Josie into playing with the Pussycats at Pickens Day. Mayor McCoy is pissed and is like, isn't she focusing on her solo career? And I'll talk to you later about this, Josie. Betty gets a call from Kevin, and he tells Betty that Chic is an internet sex worker. This is my favorite line that I've ever heard in Riverdale. Betty, he's a video gigolo, a webcam boy, a cyber trick.
Cyber trick chick.
It's so good.
Cyber trick chick.
Kevin stumbled out of a William Gibson novel. It's amazing.
Kevin has some of the best lines in the show.
Yeah. I really slept on how many good lines he has the original time we watched this.
Kevin and Cheryl really have like the best. The out of my way Bert and Ernie is like
That's true.
I think about that all the time.
Makes me laugh. Veronica talks to her mom about Mayor McCoy acting weird, and Hermione's like, well, she doesn't like how involved you are with the family business, and if she continues to be cold, I'll have a conversation with her. Archie goes to wrestling tryouts, and there's a ton of people there. He runs into Hiram. Chuck is also there, hooray. And Kevin. The coach introduces Hiram, a.k.a. the Ram Lodge. And Sheriff Keller is also there. Kevin warns Archie, he's like, hey, this isn't like, football and things. There's like skill to this. And Archie's like, it's okay. And then Kevin absolutely destroys him in drills. And then Hiram looks at him like he's pathetic. Kevin tells Betty how good it felt to beat up on Archie.
Which is amazing.
It's so good.
Like, he's like, yeah, like, sure, he's hot, but like...
Yeah. You don't get, like, I am just easily overpowering him. Betty stalks Chic's online presence and wonders how to bring it up to Chic. Jughead stops by. Apparently, Kevin is now doing a gossip column for the Blue and Gold since Jughead stopped writing for it. Jughead shows Betty the history of Riverdale, and the Blossoms hire General Pickens to remove the Ukatane, and he wants to run the story on them now that the Serpents are being run out of town. And Betty's like, well, are you going to get a quote from Hiram? Veronica talks to Archie on other ways to get Hiram's favor, and she wants him to sing with her and Josie at Pickens Day. Chic comes home pissed off. All his stuff got dumped by Marcel, including his laptop. Betty says, like, why would you actually go back to the hospital or hostel? This is your home. And he's like, are you crazy? Like, he's like, if you believe this is a long-term like housing thing, you're crazier than I thought. Jughead calls Hiram to ask for a quote, and Hiram immediately hangs up on him. Betty gets an old laptop and leaves it outside Chic's door. He answers the door, and Betty apologizes, and Chic brings it in angrily, shuts the door. Archie plays guitar while Veronica practices singing. Hiram interrupts, and he's like, hey, Archie, I'm actually less worried about you two being alone at the penthouse because you used to annoy me, but, since you failed so hard at wrestling, I'm feeling better now. And Veronica's like, oh, God. And then sticks up for Archie and says he's sexy when he sings. And Archie's like, thanks, babe, and kisses her back. But then he falls for Hiram's ploy and then gets up and he's like, actually, you know what? I'm going to go practice wrestling and I'm going to see you there tomorrow, right, Mr. Lodge?
Why don't they just drop their pants and measure?
It really is.
It's so fucking weird. Men are so fucking weird.
It is
It's so funny.
Exactly. I'm like, it is terrible in real life, but in this episode, it is so good.
Mm-hmm.
At the Cooper breakfast, round 2, Hal angrily tells Chic that the only reason he's here is to fill the void, and Chic's like, fine, it doesn't bother me, and I don't expect to stay here for free. Wrestling tryouts.
Oh, wait, sorry. At the Cooper household, when they sit at the table, even when Polly lived there, nobody sits on one side of the table.
That's right.
And while I assume it's from like a camera angle thing, it's the weirdest fucking thing. Like, wouldn't you each sit on one side of the table?
No.
Like, or did you and your siblings sit right next to each other on the same side of the table and your parents sat at the head of the table? Honestly, no
Actually,
one would have sat at the head of the table in my family is how that probably would
We
have
had
worked.
one long bench and we all sat next to each other.
Really?
That's right.
Uh-huh. Sure.
Uh,
Just one bench, just a straight line.
Straight line.
And really hard
Shoulder
to
to
get in and out. Yeah.
Exactly. I was always in the middle. Parents on the ends. And then, if you didn't finish your vegetables, everybody squeezed tighter so you couldn't get out. Wrestling tryouts. The coach brings Hiram in to demonstrate some basic moves. He then calls on Archie to volunteer, and Hiram quickly pins him and talks about dominating and demoralizing your opponent, and then whispers to Archie that he always wins.
It's so fucking creepy.
It's so good.
It's also like so homoerotic.
Oh, absolutely. Like when Greg Araki in the column is being like, yeah, this was really gay.
Yeah.
Tony reads Jughead's article to him, which calls for reparations and calls Tony's grandpa Thomas a run down. And Tony's like pissed that he's using her grandpa as a prop, and he's using all their story and background. And she's like, this isn't your story to tell. Mayor McCoy is pissed about the article and yells at Josie that Veronica can't order the pussycats around. Josie says, why are you like this about Veronica? And Mayor McCoy's like, well, let me tell you about how the lodges do business with their daughter. Josie then goes after Veronica and is like, I'm out and I don't like being manipulated by a lodge. And Veronica's like, it's your mom making you do this? And Josie's like, whatever our parents have up to is up to them, but you can't control me like your parents do my mom. Penelope leaves flowers at their great-grandpappy's grave, and then Cheryl's like, what are we even doing here? Like, Jughead's article says we, like, slaughtered a bunch of people, and Penelope's like, oh, don't be naive. How do you think we got started? We had a whole hand in running this entire town.
We ran the brothels.
Yes.
And the everything, but...
Yeah. But, yeah, exactly. Puts a nice fine point on the brothel. Archie thanks Kevin for helping him. Excuse me. For wrestling, and Kevin's like, well, why are you doing wrestling? Are you trying to impress Hiram? And Archie's like, well, I wasn't like before, but like now that he like thinks down on me, I'm trying to earn his respect, and it's personal. Chic asks why Betty gave him the laptop and why she helped him. Betty's like, it was just an old laptop and you're my brother and my mom was depressed. He's like, no, everything is transaction. What do you want? Betty's like, there's a darkness in me that I don't understand, and like I think you also have that darkness, and I know about your webcamming. And Chic's like, well, I don't want to talk about that. Archie visits the lodges, and he apparently got by their security because Hiram's like, well, I'm going to be talking to Andre about this. And then he's like, why don't you like me? And Hiram's like, well, your dad slept with another man's wife. How do I know you're not of the same stock as that? And you're not worthy of Veronica, and you can't take care of her. And Archie's like, I took care of her when you were in prison. And Veronica comes in and is just like, oh, God, stop this dick measuring contest. Archie wakes up to a call in the middle of the night, and it's from Hiram, who's like, meet me outside in 5 minutes. And it turns out they wanted to go for a fun run together as the sun rises.
A fun run?
A fun run, yeah. And then they go enjoy a meal at Pop's, and Hiram pontificates about wrestling being great because
they enjoy a meal? He feeds them fucking egg whites.
Well, Archie's just like, ooh. And then Hiram well, some of us need to have egg whites because we have high cholesterol. Thank you very much.
So sorry.
And then Hiram pontificates about wrestling being great because it's one-on-one with another man, and then tells Archie he'll never win. And we can tell Veronica that we broke bread together and I can tolerate you.
There was no bread on that table.
No, exactly.
I would have been like, we did not break bread. You fed me egg whites.
I wanted a roll.
Yeah. Give me a breakfast sandwich.
Yeah. Pop's making bagels.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I can tolerate you and Veronica being together until this phase is over.
Fathers are forever. Is that where that comes in?
Yes, he says, yeah, fathers are forever. Hermione and Veronica have breakfast, and Veronica says Josie dropped out of Pickens Day, and Hermione realizes Mayor McCoy's fault, and she's like, I'll take care of it. And Veronica's like, no, we'll do business our own way, and if they don't want in, that's on them. Veronica pleads with the Topazes about the north side and eventually Jughead, sorry.
Jesus, I was like, what do you mean Veronica pleads?
I'm like, I don't remember the scene. Jughead pleads with the Topazes about the north side and eventually apologizes for using their story. Thomas says, you opened an old wound and you have to do something about it to heal it. Archie is at wrestling tryouts. Veronica is there because Hiram invited her to watch him and cheer him on. Archie is being brought in to go one-on-one with Chuck, even though Chuck is in a higher weight class. Archie eventually beats Chuck as he stares down Hiram. Chuck must be really bad at wrestling because Archie's been wrestling for 3 days.
Literally.
Pickens Day Festival.
To be fair, Chuck just started this year, I assume, because he was kicked off the football team.
But it sounds like it's on different
it's on
seasons.
different seasons. You're right, because it's basketball season. We're in spring now.
Yeah, winter, spring.
Winter, spring.
Mm-hmm. It's Pickens Day. The festival kicks off in dreary weather, and Hermione talks to the McCoys, and Sierra talks down to her about protecting their children. Hiram shakes Archie's hand about his victory over Chuck. Archie asks if they're done, and Hiram's like, come by the Pembroke tonight and we'll discuss things. Alice, Betty, and Chic arrive. There's a scene that I skipped over of a Cooper breakfast where Hal's like, I'm not going to the Pickens Day Festival with you. And then Alice is like, oh, whatever. But then Alice, Betty, and Chic all arrive together, and Hal comes up out of nowhere and is like, do you know what you let into my house? I went on your computer, Chic. I've seen what you're doing in your webcamming, and tells Alice that his Chic has to go. And Alice says, I threw you out once, I'll do it again. Hell yeah. Hal stomps off angrily as Penelope eyes him with a creepy smile. Fred announces Veronica and the Pussycats are performing, and Josie is upset. The Serpents come to the festival with picket signs and duct tape on their mouths, protesting the use of their land. Cheryl walks up with them. Tony gives a speech on the stolen land, and then Hiram steps up and says, "We should be proud for people standing up, and we can honor their rich history of Riverdale and honor the Ukatana tribe." And everybody's like, "Woohoo!" And then the Serpents are like, "Wait, but we're like protesting." Hal angrily has a frozen slushie as Penelope comes up and offers him company. Uh-oh. Chic tells Betty that he came into her room while she was sleeping. He's like, I was there trying to figure out why you helped me, and I realized that you're alone here too. He's like, I used the webcams to make money and to escape, and it's a way to get away from the darkness inside me. And Betty asks if he can show her how to do it, and they bring up her laptop. Jesus Christ.
This is the weirdest fucking thing in the world.
The weirdest thing I've ever seen. Hiram meets with Archie. He tells him to start with a blank slate, and that as long as he's dating Veronica, he's going to demand the best of him, and offers him an internship and to mentor him. Archie denies a call from Agent Adams. The lodge's Mayor McCoy and Sheriff Keller view the Pickens statue, and it turns out it was beheaded, and Hiram wants this dealt with quickly, and he's like, this seems like it was the Serpents. The end.
Okay. My first thought is that I really wish Betty claiming her sexuality was written better in the show.
Yeah.
The serpent dance and the webcamming and the brother helping her set up the webcamming. And then the next episode, we get like her doing it. And I am not naive enough to think that there are not young people that are actively trying or in those spaces. But I don't really like the way the show does it.
No.
Because it's not doing it in a way that presents it as, like in Chic's life, it's dangerous, but in Betty's life so far, it's not dangerous. And it's also like, I don't know, the whole thing is just, it's all for an older gaze, and it's very, I wish if they were going to do it that they would focus on it. Does that make sense? Like, it's not something you can do as like a C plot.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is it's not her
like feeling empowered.
No, or discovering her sexuality at all. It's
about her darkness.
Exactly. And that it's this dirty, like almost like evil thing that she's
shame-based.
Doing. Yeah.
It's very Catholic coded.
It really is. And then I can understand like when we have Hal going off that like we need to get rid of Chic because he's a sex worker online and things, that Hal is in the wrong even within the show. Like that's not something you do. But then they don't disprove him wrong with the way the show treats Betty and even like Chic talking about it too.
Exactly. And also Hal is also, there's one space where he's correct, and it's the idea that like regardless of if someone's related to you, stranger danger is real.
Yeah.
And so it's a really negligent parental choice for Alice to allow this person to live in her house with her daughter unsupervised and in an environment where her daughter obviously does not have the tools to navigate her life or her relationship with anybody. Mm-hmm. Or it's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
And because I wish like even like the serpent dance, like it's done in a way where it's it's intentionally uncomfortable because it is a teenager and there's a lot of layers to it. And I could stop there because she's doing it for a goal to get into this group to be able to protect Jughead. But in this is for her, in air quotes, because it's about her and her darkness. And like you said, it's just so, it makes it seem like sex is so shame-based instead of her just being like, oh, there are sides of myself I want to explore, or like, I want to find a consensual partner to practice these things with, or, you know, try these things with. It's the Dark Betty plotline is not always done well.
No.
I don't think it's ever really done well.
No.
And the way it ties to sexuality specifically is, to me, problematic.
Right.
Especially because this show is for teenagers.
Yeah.
Ideally. So it's a choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is both a, I mean, it's demonizing sex work in one, and then it's giving you a really weird picture of discovering your sexuality, because it's not really about that, like we mentioned, but it's tied up in it because that's what it is.
Exactly.
So it's weird. And I would just go out weird and bad.
Exactly. And then to counter that, you have Penelope, who kind of reclaimed her sexuality by doing this. And she is an adult, soliciting adults, granted married adults, but solicit who you want. Just if they say no, you walk away, I guess, you know.
But she's also very evil.
So it still doesn't, she's more empowered in her choices, but she is not a good person.
Mm-mm.
So what does that say once again about people who participate in sex work?
Yeah, totally. You know,
participate willingly, because like it gives us the idea that Chic may or may not be willingly involved. It was like, was it the only option for him? We don't really have like a solid understanding of like how he ended up there. So it's easier as the audience to be like, oh, well, he's a victim of it. And I think there are victims in sex work. I think sex work is a very complicated subject. And I think that by doing it in this way, it's not necessarily approaching it well, which is so unfortunate because they do so many other things so well in this show.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the one thing that I'm kind of like, oh,
yeah. A very regressive view.
Mm-hmm. Things they do well, though.
Mm-hmm.
Tony calling out Jughead for being the white boy who walks into a space and is like, well, this is my narrative to say, and I gotta go light the torch and like really set the whole thing ablaze. And then she's like, well, now you gotta go apologize and clean it up. And then my favorite thing about the apology scene, when he's in there talking to Tony and her grandfather, he starts trying to explain himself, and Tony goes, I thought you were here to apologize. And I was like, that is exactly it, because you may have had your reasons. People don't intentionally often, like, especially Jughead was not intentionally trying to hurt people.
No.
But he needed to own the fact that he did first and foremost. And you can, if they're willing to listen, explain your reasons why, but you have to apologize first.
Yep.
And I think that's the key thing. And it's not, I'm sorry, but it's, I am sorry that I did this. This is the impact that it had.
Mm-hmm. No, it's
I was misguided by XYZ. Yeah, I think it's a really good catch and call out. And I really appreciate that she holds him accountable.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Tony as a character too. She's the only person with any like emotional maturity most of the time.
Absolutely. And it's a good pickup from last episode as he starts doing this. So it's good to see that they're following up on, like, Jughead has this white savior complex, and he makes everything so much harder for everybody else that he wants to like save and make better. And it's not that you can't do things to like help your community and do things better, but also you can't come into someone else's and start speaking on behalf of them for your own crusade, which is what Jughead is doing.
Well, and even if it's for their crusade, you do not get to speak for people in their space or about their space. You elevate their voices instead.
Mm-hmm.
And he has to learn that lesson. So I like that. I think that's really well done.
Yeah. And he kicks the beehive so that, I mean, even, they do their protest, which is good. And they kind of do this thing where it does have like an impact within the town where people are reacting. It doesn't necessarily drive change, and it provokes a response. But even like provoking the response from the people are like, but you weren't the one that should have done that. Like you don't get to just come in here and like lead from the front on this. Because they talk about like Cheryl has like, oh, Jughead's article, like it goes amongst all the Riverdale people, but it doesn't like erase of like, but you shouldn't be, you're now making this harder for us all.
One, what he particularly does in the article that Tony quotes is that she calls his grandfather weak.
Yeah.
And so it's also insulting because it's saying this person couldn't handle this thing for themselves, so now I have to come in and save them, and I can do that. And while you should be using your privilege to help and assist people and elevate their voices, you do not call them weak in the process.
Yeah, because that means you're looking down on them.
And then at the same time, I really like, so when Hiram comes up to the microphone, then Jughead tries to like go up there, and Tony's grandfather stops him. I think those are all really good details. The other thing I really like is that Cheryl's like, wait a minute. Cheryl has really strong morals. She probably has like the best moral code in the show. Like it's very obvious. Cheryl has lines. They're not anyone else's lines.
Maybe next to Tony. Tony being number one.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. But early, I was thinking like from the beginning kind of characters. Cheryl from the beginning is like, these are my lines. These are the things I care about. I will be a holy bitch to you regardless. But like I can be mean to you, but I didn't mean to out that Veronica had this experience and didn't tell you. Or I will not sit here and participate with you, Mom, while I have learned that my family committed genocide.
Yeah.
And she also does that silently. She just puts her body in the space.
That's right.
And I'm like, wow.
Steps up to the front to show solidarity.
It was like much, much better done. I like too that she shoves her like caramel apple in her mom.
Oh,
I think that's really fun. Archie and Hiram's thing. Their thing. Their little thing.
I'd call it a pathological.
Yeah, it's very, as we've kind of talked about it already, but it's just very strange and funny. I also want to know, so like when Hiram, which he's bringing Archie in, as we learn, is he bringing Archie in because he trusts Archie, or because he thinks it's easier to control Archie from the inside, or because he is suspicious of Archie? Like, what is the vibe? Because I think Hiram's motivations are always 12 steps ahead.
Totally.
And so I want to know what his motivations are, because I cannot remember.
Yeah. I will not comment there, but I think at least for these episodes, you can kind of have that suspicion in the back of your mind, even though with kind of like, as you pick up on the next one, it's like, he seems to be warming up more to the idea that Archie has a use within the family and could potentially, as he does all the really it talks about all the misogynistic things about taking care of his daughter and like being the man and the provider for the family and stuff, which I think, talking about hypermasculinity from weeks ago, like this is so good. Like the brain on the writers to be, okay, what if the typical like father boyfriend like rivalry relationship we make it heightened to 11, where they are literally like duking it out with each other in like the realm of physical combat, aka wrestling. Oh, it's just wild. And Mark Consuelos is knocking it out of the park. Oh,
absolutely. He's amazing.
He's so
I
good.
love that man.
And could you imagine that it's like, okay, you're going to come and you're just going to like intimidate in every possible scene what is KJF in this 19-year-old?
Yeah, like 20-year-old boy who's like 6 feet tall and like super, super fit.
Like
he's taller than him.
Yeah. And then when they do their wrestling and he's like, yeah, like Archie, like, he steps into the ring and he's deadly serious. It's so good.
I love it.
And Archie makes the fatal flaw of buying into it. That he's like, I have to compete with him. And it's exactly what Hiram wants.
Mm-hmm. I also think that Archie is torn between the idea of like, do I do this for this agent and to protect my dad and Veronica, or do I do this because I love Veronica? And like, it becomes so much about Archie's ego and no longer about this like secret stuff he's doing for the FBI or whatever, the CIA, I can't remember. But he puts it feels like he puts all of that to the side and is only focused on proving that he is man enough.
Mm-hmm. He's so fragile. Because even when Veronica is like, well, I don't care. Like the person that he should be doing all this for and take comfort in, like in Veronica, and he backslides on all of his things into the next one of like, yeah, I'm not playing music anymore and whatnot because Hiram shames him. And then when Veronica's just being like, well, he's like, he can play music. He does like other things good. He doesn't have to be good at like the wrestling. And then Archie's like, on second thought,
I have to be good at business and wrestling.
Oh, it's so good. The male ego of just so much fragility there and so much fronting, so much peacocking.
Well, it makes it so easy to control him.
Yeah. Wrapped around his finger.
Well, ready for the next one?
Yeah. All right. Let's step into the ring.
Oh, are we wrestling? Do you think I'd win?
Yes.
Really?
Probably.
I've won every thumb war we've ever done.
Yeah, I'm terrible at it. I'm so bad at thumb war. I
did not know you could be like bad at thumb wars. I mean, like I know, but like it depends on the size of the thumb. You know, I don't know. And I thought, you know, because your thumb was bigger than mine, that maybe you'd know how to use it better. But it's not about the size of the ship. It's about the motion of the ocean, you know? Or in this case, the thumb. You're welcome.
You know, men out there, you don't have to worry about the size of your thumb or how good you are at thumb wars. You can be better at other things and still be a man. Anyways, yeah, we can move on to the next episode. Chapter 25, The Wicked and the Divine. So this episode title comes from Kieran Gillen's contemporary fantasy comic book series with the same name. I'm actually reading Kieran Gillen's power fantasy right now, and it is highly recommended. But Wicked and Divine, the plot summary that I got was that it follows a young teenage girl, Laura, as she interacts with the Pantheon, which is a group of 12 people who discover that they are reincarnated deities. This discovery grants them fame and supernatural powers with the stipulation that they will die within 2 years as part of a 90-year cycle known as the Recurrence. I'm like, damn, that sounds cool.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like, having only read power fantasy, that this is like similar of thinking of powers as like these huge like earth-changing things, and that there's like our entry is like a regular human to try and like interface with what that's like actually like living in our contemporary world. But I don't know. I haven't read The Wicked and the Divine, so that's just my guess.
Me neither.
Anyways, Archie has a Goodfellas montage for working with Hiram. And the Goodfellas montage I'm making is, I think they're doing it directly. That it's like, here's when, oh God, what's his name? Henry in Goodfellas is like on the rise, and he's like working for the mob, and he's like, you know, he's like keeping busy, but he's finding purpose, and he's like getting a lot of like good positives out of it. So that's what Archie's doing for running around and doing Hiram's errands. Archie finds Veronica getting fitted for a confirmation dress. Her family is coming into town for it, and Hiram is so proud of her for getting confirmed.
I have a few qualms. When I was becoming confirmed, I was not allowed to wear something that did not have sleeves. You had to have your shoulders covered, because if the Lord sees your shoulders, he might know you're a slut. Yeah. I mean, I'd told him in confession, so I guess there was that.
Forgive me, Father, if I've sinned. I've been slutting around.
So many men have seen my shoulders. I think it's a stupid rule. I'm not enforcing the Catholic dress code, but when I was being forced to participate in Catholicism, I had to have my shoulders covered.
Well, we're just saying, Roberto, we're seeing.
I don't remember
we're
what
checking
I
on
wore
these
to my confirmation. I don't think I've ever seen a picture from the day. I know we've got to have some.
I haven't seen one. Interesting.
I remember, I'm pretty sure I had to take a picture with one of the cardinals came. So like in the Catholic Church, there are lots of different men who get different jobs and they get to wear different little outfits.
There's rankings.
And they had fun hats.
Yeah.
Was it red?
Yeah, cardinals are red. I think.
Cardinals are red, like the bird, right?
I think so.
I'm pretty sure he was in red. And I was like, wow, you get to, if you're a cardinal, you get a little pizzazz. I was like, how do you get promoted to that?
Yeah, because most priests are wearing like white, like or like a tan almost.
Tan?
It's like off-white. You know what I mean? It's like it's white, but it's not like Veronica's dress white. It's more like subdued, I usually feel.
Maybe it depends on the one too, because then they also would wear like the little like things over it.
Yeah,
like,
I was
had,
thinking
like, the
of
green
their vestments, and then they have the. Oh, you're thinking of the robe. Sorry.
Yeah, I was thinking of the robe.
Oh, okay. Because I know they have. What are the?
Like the vestments is what they're called, right? The little things that go over.
Oh, that's the vestments. Yeah, and they would have different colors for. It would be like, oh, it's St. Patrick's Day is coming up, so it's got green.
I don't think that's how it worked. It had to do with the Catholic holidays.
St. Patrick's Day. He's Catholic. He drove the snakes out of Ireland.
I think it more has to do with like Lent
Easter.
and Advent.
Some of us knew what they were really for.
I'm almost positive. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. Maybe the priests get to wake up every day and pick which color outfit they want to wear. I don't know.
Is Lent was like purple, right? Because of the candles.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Because then you lit one for.
Aren't they like
each
purple
week?
and pink? Isn't it
Yeah,
pink
I
at
think
the end?
so. Yeah.
We were really bad at being Catholic, obviously.
Oh boy, I can't remember.
You went to Catholic school too. I had to do Catholic school after school.
Yeah, I know. I had to do Catholic church every week at school, and then every Sunday.
Yeah, I just went once. And
A lot of mass, just like Anne.
a little Arrested Development joke if you've
Yeah.
never seen it. He's not insulting
There
a
it is.
person we know named Dan.
It's just gonna keep happening that I make these references.
I just want to make sure that no one thinks you're a mean.
Mean to Anne. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
mean man.
The Jones get a visit from Sheriff Keller. Jughead tells him that they don't have General Pickens' head and they don't know who did it, and Sheriff Keller needs to stop coming around there. It's like the fourth time this week. Jughead said he's writing an article that the sheriff cares more about the vandal than getting the Black Hood. Betty webcams while wearing her dark Betty wig. Alice knocks on the door, worried. It's like, why is your door locked? And I'm hearing voices. Who is that? But Betty covers and tells her mom off. Veronica invites all the friends at school for confirmation. Jughead and Betty get called to the principal's office, and Weatherby says after Jughead's article, there's been backlash, and Hiram's lawyer came after the school, and they're both suspended from the paper. After Jughead tells Betty she doesn't deserve the heat for what he wrote. Oh, sorry, I accidentally clicked on something here. Doesn't deserve the heat for what he wrote, and tells her about Sheriff Keller's harassment of the trailer park and his family. Betty asks if he did go after the Pickens statue, and he's like, well, why would I do that? And Betty says, maybe you did it for Tony's grandpa. I saw you both at Pop's one morning, and you looked a lot more than pals. And did something happen? And Jughead's like, well, yeah, something did happen one night, but like the night that Archie broke up with me on behalf of you, but like we didn't go like all the way. And it's like, what about you? Did anything happen? And Betty's like, no.
The whole thing is the vestments. Like their whole outfit is called vestment.
Oh, okay.
And then each little item has its own name. Like they wear something underneath, and then they wear the white thing underneath, and then they do their little rope around the waist, and then the stole, and then the thing that goes over it. It's a chasuble.
Oh. So stole is the the colored, like almost like.
Mm-hmm. But then they have like the other thing that goes over it too.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so those are colors.
And those have colors, and green is used in ordinary times. Red is used the Pentecost, the Holy Spirit's Feast of the Apostles, gold or white is feasts of Jesus and Mary and saints who were not martyred. So red is for martyred saints, and gold is for non-martyred. Rose is for the third Sunday of Advent and the fourth Sunday of Lent. So that's when they wear the pink, and then purple is for Advent and Lent.
Okay, yeah. There you go.
There you go.
So pink is like the end of Lent.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. So you're right.
The third one. That's the one that's not Easter.
Right. Palm Sunday, essentially.
I think so.
Yeah. Veronica gets a gift from the St. Clair.
You can take the kids out of the Catholic, but you can't take the confusion out of the kids.
There's a whole lot going on. Veronica gets a gift from the St. Clairs, and Hermione says this is what people in our business do. They will send gifts sometimes, even in times of war, and maybe to make amends. And then Veronica... and then Hermione also says that Mama St. Clair called her, and that says that Archie paid Nick an unfriendly visit. Archie picks up an order from Pops, and Pop says Hiram's the boss, and Archie's like, wait, what do you mean by that? And then gets a call from Agent Adams. Archie is annoyed that Agent Adams is in his garage and meets him there. And
Me too!
Yeah, and Adams is annoyed that he hasn't responded back to him. And he's like, well, Hiram's crime family is coming into town, and we need you as our eyes and ears, Archie. And Archie's like, well, I don't want to be at the confirmation for the FBI. I just want to be there for Veronica. And Adams is like, well, you have to be there for both. Sheriff Keller delivers an eviction notice to the entire Sunnyside trailer park on behalf of the mayor's office. Boo!
Because
boo this
some
man.
of the people are behind on their rent.
Boo!
How does that make sense?
Apparently for the Pickens statue.
Yeah, but their rationale is that some of the people are behind on their rent.
So then everybody just gets shut
So
down.
everyone gets evicted? Isn't that not how property works?
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't matter when you're the judge, jury, and executioner.
That's true. No, I see horrible things happening all the time in the world we live in. I just like to pretend that my fiction might have more rules than my reality.
No.
Well, it might actually, but
Boo this man. Boo.
boo indeed. ACAB, even Sheriff Keller.
That's right. Mayor McCoy and Josie are at the lodges to apologize to Veronica and Hermione. Hermione and Veronica say there's no grudges, and Veronica invites them to her confirmation. And Josie's like, I'd be happy to sing there. And Hermione's like, yes, but Veronica's like, I'm gonna sing. But I guess we could do a duet. FP gives a speech to the Serpents and asks if anyone has the head, and Tallboy blames Jughead for writing the article and stirring up all this shit, and FP gets in between Tallboy and Jughead before fisticuffs come and says, we don't turn on each other. Hiram grills Archie on beating up Nick St. Clair, and he's like, I'm impressed, and respects a man who would go to such extremes to protect his woman. Hiram says he's hosting a poker game at Pop's and before Veronica's confirmation, and invites Archie to go there, fill drinks, and tend to everybody's cigars. Betty comes home and finds a stranger that walks downstairs and leaves, and Chick's like, oh, that was the guy I was having a job interview with. What sort of interview was that, Chick? Betty says, I thought you didn't bring clients home, and Chick's like, I would never tell a client where I live, and don't you do that either. Jughead is at the mayor's office, annoyed with Mayor McCoy. She's annoyed because the governor came down on her about the head. And Jughead's like, why are you doing this? Wait a minute. Is someone pulling the strings? Like, is Hiram in the lodges doing it? And Mayor McCoy's like, you need to back down, Jughead. But Jughead's like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. Archie and Veronica work a soup kitchen, and he tells her about the poker game that he's going to be working. And Veronica's like all kind of freaked out about it. And he's like, is there any reason I shouldn't go? Veronica's like, the game has been happening for decades, and it's high stakes. You got to be careful. And there are these are old school industry titans you don't cross. Betty meets with Jughead at Pop's, and Jughead tells her about Mary McCoy coming down on the Serpents. And Betty says, let's go find the head then. And we'll treat this like a missing persons case. Veronica visits Hiram and is annoyed and worried that Archie will find out about the family secrets. She asks what Hiram's angle is, and Hiram's like, I want to know how Archie will handle himself, and if he sticks around, then, he might have to be brought in, and he may be even more like the family than I thought. Veronica's like, he's nothing like the family. I don't want him compromised. And Hiram says, you'll have to make a choice. Either way, he comes, he's able to, come be with be inside the business, or he can stay on the outside forever.
Which is a wild thing to say at 16 years old.
Right. You got to make this decision.
You got to make this decision for your boyfriend at 16. Is he going to be part of our crime family? Or are you going to keep him on the outside?
That's right. Jughead finds that, well, you can drive, so we got to bring you in. Jughead finds the Serpents and Penny back at the White Worm. Tallboy brought her in, and she shows her scar from Jughead slicing off her tattoo, his pound of flesh. Penny says she can stall the eviction notice and wants back into the Serpents, and Jughead kicked out and wants to carve his tattoo off. At home, FP tells Jughead...
Which is literally attacking a minor.
Uh-huh.
There's a different game there.
Adults, minors...
There's no rules in Riverdale.
Exactly. There's just violence. At home, FP tells...
She's a lawyer, though.
Yeah. But Penny doesn't care about these things. Penny's in deep shit.
She knows the law, so she can get out of the law.
That's right.
All lawyers are like Penny Peabody,
Yeah. Interesting.
Deep.
Or at least there's like that, I think he's a Southern guy who's like, I would see him on like Twitter and stuff, that he'd cut these like promos, and he's like a lawyer, and he has like all these rings on and all this, bumping the microphone, all this jewelry, and talking, like he would give like law advice. It's like, you don't have to do this with the police and stuff. So that's what it makes me think of.
That's so funny. I love that.
FP tells Jughead that the serpents will have a vote. FP is upset that Jughead attacked Penny. Jughead says, oh, you know, like you didn't mess up, like stuffing a boy's body in a freezer. And then FP says it's your fault all this is happening for writing that article, and tells him that that Jughead will be the death of them.
Which is so mean.
It's really
You'll be the
mean.
death of the serpents. Like, sir, you killed well, you didn't kill, but you hit the body of a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
All Jughead did was cut an adult.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're lining things up.
You know, yeah. Exactly. It's just, there's a scale on these things. It's not great.
Yeah, I mean, we're not proud.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Is driving Penny
She's not
Peabody
great.
out of town? Yeah.
So.
Sometimes you got to make hard decisions in life.
Yeah. Don't let him cook because he keeps getting you into shit, but maybe rein him in a bit.
Yeah.
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 Adams wants Archie to wear a wire, and Archie's like, I'm not going to do that.
That's a great way to get this child killed.
Uh-huh. Hal gives Alice an ultimatum, and she's like, goodbye. And then Hal has his bag packed and leaves for a...
Share B&B.
Veronica is in a Catholic church and goes to confession and worries about how she's lying to Archie because she's having confession with the Monsignor, who has been with their family, essentially. They've known him for forever. And worries that she's lying to Archie and leading him down a dark path, and asks for advice. And the Monsignor is just like, 8 Hail Marys and before our fathers.
It's 10 Hail Marys and 5 Our Fathers.
Oh, you wrote down the
I
amount.
wrote it down. I feel like 10 is a lot.
It's a lot.
I feel like I was given like a 5 and 5, or like a 5
Maybe
and
like 3 and 3, maybe.
I think one time I was given like a larger number, and I was like, I'm not gonna do this.
That's too many. I have things to do.
I was like little, you know what I mean? You're like, Jesus, like 7.
I have a play date today, Father.
Yeah, like, I got friends I gotta go hang out. Granny's making dinner. I'm stopping at whatever number I'm at when Mom gets out of the confessional herself.
And that's between me and the Lord.
I never understood why you had to confess to a priest anyway. It's not like, what do you know?
But then they're like, oh, but you should reach out to God for help. It's like, okay, is he listening or is he not?
Is he gonna answer my call or is he not?
Yeah. Or do I have to go through this man?
Or I
every
have to
time?
call you, the operator, and then you have to put my call through? Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Also, I know you smoke behind the church, so like, not that cigarettes, I guess, are a sin, but they're not good.
No.
Is it not like hurting your body? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, you know, in Catholicism, we did cut down the commandments to only 2, so that's not in there. Veronica has wine.
You cut the commandments down to only 2.
Yeah, Jesus he threw out the 10 commandments, and he's like, you just have to love your neighbor as thyself, and love the Lord above all, or something. He cuts it down to 2.
Well, I think he says those are the most important, but I didn't know we didn't have to do the other ones.
I think he consolidates it just down to 2.
Huh. But I didn't know that meant that the other ones didn't count.
Yeah, you're not supposed. Yeah,
I think you're still not supposed to break the other ones, are you?
I think they just kind of roll up.
Yeah, but how do those roll up? Like, don't
by loving your neighbor.
You don't covet their wife.
Exactly. It rolls. See, there you go.
Okay, you know what? Respect. Maybe
Mm-hmm. He's like, this is too complicated. We just need 2.
it's too open to interpretation. We really needed the Old Testament version. We're like, do not covet your neighbor's wife.
That's right. Veronica has wine later with her abuelita and tias and her mom. They all talk about praying for protection and forgiveness, and the family all ask about Archie. It's Hiram's poker game. Archie meets the 3 other businessmen, and one of them is Papa Poutine. Papa Poutine rubs in Hiram's face about Fred and Hermione. Pop delivers food, and Papa Poutine calls Pop's food horrible because Pop made poutine.
I was so offended.
I know, and Hiram is as well, and he tells Papa Poutine to apologize for disrespecting Pop Tate, and Papa Poutine then steps outside, and Hiram apologizes on behalf of him to Pop, and then Andre follows Papa Poutine outside. Archie unclogs the toilet and overhears Papa Poutine and one of the other businessmen talking about outside about how Hiram is getting sloppy and losing his edge, and they want to remove him after Veronica's confirmation. It's the confirmation. Josie and Veronica sing Bittersweet Sympathy, which is disrespecting the Catholic tradition of singing hymnals. And they're at the front of the altar of all things. You don't do that. But I do like the lighting in this scene. Because it's like, oh, she has her crisis where she doesn't know if she's like corrupting Archie and things get all dark. But then when she looks
that would happen up there, like the confirmation aspect.
Yes, I'm talking about them singing.
It's just the Josie standing in front of the altar singing.
Yeah. And then she has her dark moment. The lights go all down. And then when she looks at Archie and makes her decision, it immediately lights up behind her like a halo.
Mm-hmm.
The after party. Mayor McCoy brings the Lodges the deed to what was previously Southside High because the deal is finalized. Veronica brings Archie to meet her abuelita. Betty finds Jughead sitting alone. He tells her about the serpents voting on him and tells her about Penny and says after the breakup, every decision he made has been bad. Betty gets a call with a lead on Pickens' head. Veronica thanks Archie for being there. Hiram cuts in to dance with Veronica, and she tells Hiram that she doesn't want Archie brought into the family business. Jughead and Betty visit a guy at the dump who found the head stashed in an old refrigerator. He says a guy wearing a serpent jacket came in, and Jughead's like, was he, in fact, tall and a boy? And the guy says, sure was. Archie wants to talk to him.
Imagine like your name is Tall Boy because you're tall.
Uh-huh. Yeah, he's tall. We'll call you Tall Boy.
Mm-hmm.
Archie asks to talk to Hiram alone in his study. He tells him about Papa Poutine going after him, and Hiram's like, thank you, and you can go back to the party. And Hiram makes a phone call. Jughead and Betty and FP come in to the White Worm with the head. FP grills Tallboy on dumping the head, and Tallboy says Hiram came to him, and he thought it would be his chance to get rid of Jughead and FP, and the serpents all vote to strip Tallboy of his jacket and exile him. Veronica asks why Archie chatted alone in Hiram's office, and Archie's like, oh, it's just to talk about the internship. Veronica's like, I want to protect you. Like, the truth is my dad's a ... And then Archie's like, yes, a mobster. And Veronica's like, it's not just that he is a monster. It's like what he's planning to do, and tries to tell him the truth. And he's like, no, I can't know. I mean, I love you, Veronica, and you don't have to protect me from this. Jughead and Betty sit awkwardly in the Joneses' trailer. Jughead apologizes for pushing her away. Betty says she can handle the darkness of the serpents. He invites her to stay. They hook up. Betty says, wait, I have to tell you something. And Jughead says, what? And then Betty says, oh, nothing. And just essentially they hook up. Alice and Chic have dinner alone. She's annoyed that Betty has disappeared. They get a knock at the door, and a random man is at the door asking for Chic. Archie finds Agent Adams in his garage again. Papa Poutine was found dead in his hotel room an hour ago, and he asks if Hiram is involved, and Archie says he didn't hear anything that could implicate him. Veronica opens up a gift and looks concerned, and she's like, I think it's for you, Mom and Dad, and inside is the Pickens statue head. Serpents move fast. Betty comes home and finds the man dead on the floor and Alice mopping up the blood on the ground.
She's like, Elizabeth, did you lock the door?
Good stuff.
So one of my favorite things in this episode is that Agent Adams says this was a typical gangland sleigh.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I mean, look at him.
Gangland sleigh. That's all I can think of. So I think it's really interesting because I think you can look at this episode in terms of loyalties and like confessions. And so like who's loyal to who and who confesses to who, and conversely who in those dynamics doesn't. For example, Jughead confesses to Betty. We really get like post Veronica's confirmation, Jughead's like, I fucked up. I am just really bad at all of this. I shouldn't have pushed you. Basically breaking up with you onward. I just continue to fuck up. Mm-hmm. It feels really good. We love to see it.
Absolutely.
I love watching a man apologize. I want him to grovel a little more, but I like watching him apologize.
Hat in hand.
And I really like that. Betty does not tell him about being a cam girl.
Mm-mm. Or that she kissed Archie.
Oh, shit. I forgot she kissed Archie.
Mm-hmm.
He asked her if she'd been with anyone, and she said no.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, even though that was a quick kiss.
So she wasn't really with anybody. So I don't know if I would have answered that like that either, but she did kiss him. Mm-hmm. She gave him a smooch.
Just saying, it's something that Jughead doesn't know about. So yeah. And she did. I guess she told everybody about Chic being in the house. Never mind.
Yeah. No, they know he exists. Archie confesses to Hiram. He chooses his loyalty and then uses that as like a confession. And I think also, so going back to the loyalty aspect, Jughead has decided that he is loyal to Betty.
Mm-hmm. Which we love to see.
Which means he's going to tell her the truth and fully apologize.
Like, thank God.
Archie.
It's been too long.
Yeah. Archie is loyal to Hiram. or at least covering up. And by that, he's loyal to Veronica, and so he's loyal to Hiram by proxy. But how much of this is pure admiration at this point?
Right.
This is a really good example of like alt-right boys, like the podcast bro thing, where it goes from being like this man I don't like or like I feel weird about to like this man I weirdly want their approval. Like I feel like it maps onto like the guys that are like really into the like the crypto bros and the podcast guys and the, I don't want to say any of their names because I don't want to deal with that. But the idea that like even if at first like a young man like rejects them, like a lot of young men are still brought into their web eventually because they start hearing things they want to hear about themselves.
Right. Because he Hiram in the same way. I think what you're saying is that they validate their like essentially misogynistic and toxic
masculinity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this idea that like, oh, well, like I need to get the approval of this manly man because like that's the only thing that matters, when like the only approval you should be seeking is the one of like the people you love and care about.
Right. And the Lord. But it seems like he is in, I think actually the jumping off that being a good point, he is more he is more loyal to Hiram as like a respect thing of like they're like, even of like I need to go to you like sort of thing and I need to tell you all these things. But to Veronica, it is more of I am the provider, the caretaker, and I'm going to take care of you.
It's
so I can
so
tell
misogynistic. Exactly. That's exactly where I was going with this podcast bro comparison too, because the misogyny is a key aspect of that. It's the idea that women could not understand and they don't, you have to protect them and they're this fragile little thing. Meanwhile, I win all the thumb wars.
That's right. Know your place.
And then to make things worse, Veronica is loyal and chooses Archie. And she confesses to Archie.
Right, and stops her.
Yeah, and her true confession is not the one she does to the Monsignor, but the one she does to Archie, and Archie won't let her finish. Which is because he is not loyal to her in the way that he is loyal to Hiram and also to like justice.
Yes.
Like, so he's in this very interesting predicament.
Yeah, because I think he's backslid so much on all that to now that he's enamored and working with Hiram and he's really brought in, that any of the teachings and things that I think going back to like with Fred of like teaching him to be a good man and like how to like approach things in the world that we got a lot in the first season, excuse me, is like out the window because he has this like negative influence in his life. And also the person that's on the side of justice, Agent Adams, is like putting him in a lot of real danger and also threatening his family. So it's not exactly a good person there, but now he's like caught between because he's still in league with this person, but the Agent Adams, but he's not like actually updating them and pretending like he's not like close with them. So now he's like, and he hasn't told anybody about that. So he's keeping that all to himself and just getting himself in deeper and deeper.
In slightly tangential, one of the things I really loved in this episode, I love when Betty and Jughead are on because they make really good mystery partners. They're very fun. They obviously have really good chemistry. Like all of their relationship scenes are very believable. Like the awkward scene of him asking her if like she's been with anybody and her asking him about Tony and all of that. It's so good because it's so like nervous early relationship, especially when you're younger and you're really insecure. Like it's all of that. And it's that idea that like, I still care, like they're obviously still interested. And so it's really well done. It's really good. And they play it really well. And then visually the scene of Betty in her pink dress and Jughead in his suspenders sitting on the couch in the trailer is so, I love it. Like if it wasn't like it wouldn't go with our home at all, I'd be like, I want that framed. I don't really want to look at like a picture of Cole Sprouse every day, but like I I think it's a beautiful image. Like, I'm obsessed. Like, I think that was so well done, and it was shot so beautifully. And this idea of them sitting separately, and it still has that almost like 50s-ish style to like Betty's dress and their outfits, and then just the nostalgia of it to then like him kind of like moving closer to her. And I don't know, it's just so good. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he asks her to stay.
Yeah. Oh, I was good. And that image will be on our Blue Sky before this episode goes up.
Yeah, I love that image. I said I want that.
Yeah.
I think that's really, I don't know. It's really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the way they both just kind of look like they're like trained, like they just came home, like they're just like, woof, like,
and they're trying so hard to like maintain whatever it is that they have, while desperately wishing that it was what it had been, and not sure if they can like move into that center space. So like the space in between them is really good, and the way like they've got their hands, like I don't know, it's really good. I loved that. The other thing I really wanted to talk about is the Josie and Mayor McCoy apology scene, because it is very obvious that they are not there by their own choice.
No.
So what did Hermione do?
Yeah.
And does Veronica know? Because Veronica's not stupid. Veronica seems like she can pick up that Josie's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But so what happened, and why is now Josie involved, you know?
And I think even going back to the last episode where Veronica then gets to Pussycats to join her, because she makes that decision.
Yeah, Veronica does that herself.
So Veronica knows. But yeah, Hermione's really good at, because we don't get, like I mentioned, when Hiram comes in, Hermione really takes a back seat. Mm-hmm. So, but you can see that Hermione's still, at least in the background, like really good at pulling the strings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's fun, even if we don't get it resolved this time, of that Jughead's like the reporter who's like, I know I got the scoop. I want to figure out what's going on with the mayor's office, the corruption at the mayor's office.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's
that
so
scene's
good.
Great. So I'm hoping, I can't remember, but I assume we get more of that, but I don't think, I don't know. I'm hoping we get more of it.
Yeah.
I think we had talked about this actually after we finished watching it, is that the Agent Adams versus Hiram is kind of a missed opportunity of having like Fred and Hiram, like being the two, again, the versions of masculinity for like Archie to be like parsing of like the angel and the devil.
Okay, so I agreed with you yesterday, but I'm thinking about it now more, and it's something you said earlier that actually is making me think this. Agent Adams is not good.
No.
Agent Adams is bad. Fred would not use Archie in the way that Agent Adams is. So I think it's telling us a very different narrative, that on both sides of the law and crime, there is no good. And goodness does not come from what side of Riverdale you're born on, or you know which group you work under or operate under. So I think it's kind of like a bigger device, like now thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's this idea that like there are no good guys that are going to come save you.
Yeah.
The good guys are not going to come save you.
What are the compromises that, say, seekers of justice or something on the side of justice have to make to try and get this?
Mm-hmm. And in which case, is it still justice if you have to abuse the system to acquire it?
Yeah, or children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Are the victims worth the result?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Yeah, and I guess maybe they just didn't have. I just would like, I think the idea of having Fred more involved, of like the counterbalance.
Fred.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe that's just because I like Luke Perry.
Fred's we get a small reaction to him, like learning that Archie's spending so much time interning for Hiram and that he's not a fan of it. But yeah, I would like more of him too, because I think his reactions to that would be more interesting than the Agent Adams is in his garage again. Does Fred not like ever check the garage?
I don't think so.
Is Agent Adams just living in his garage?
I know. That's how he's like, I'm back again, and actually just waits till Archie leaves and he goes back into the garage.
Yeah, he just like takes a little nap in there.
Exactly. I can't afford a hotel.
Any other thoughts on these episodes? They're pretty good.
Yeah, I was gonna say I had a great time. I love these episodes.
Yeah, they were well done.
Yeah. So, but no other thoughts other than just 2 thumbs up.
Good. Well, let us know your thoughts in the comments.
Yes.
You can find this podcast on all your audio podcast platforms. You can also find it on YouTube at dead_ends. You can send us an email if you have any thoughts, questions, vibes, I don't know, to deadendspcast@gmail.com. You can leave comments on the YouTube, especially if you want to share your thoughts, share your reactions. Guess who the Black Hood is? I know it's hard. It's real hard. But watching it now, I'm like, oh, there's so many little things that I did not fucking notice the first time.
Yeah, they do a good job with it.
They do such a good job. It is not one of those mysteries where at the end you go, there were no signs.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that. I hate when it's just like, it's a twist. And I'm like,
yeah. When has that happened?
I don't know. There's this woman named Cece Drake. Worse, there's this woman named Alex Drake. But really, she's Spencer. Really, she says sister, but in my head, it'll always be Spencer.
I know.
It's my Mandela effect, personally, internally.
In this podcast on record.
Did I need to plug anything else?
We're also on Blue Sky?
Oh, yeah, we're on Blue Sky.
At Dead-Ends.
And you can find all of that and the links to our link trees, our personal link trees, in the description.
That's right.
Well, we don't fit in.
We're not going to fit in.
And we love you very much.
Love you very much.
And have a little giggle when you think of Papa Poutine.
You know?
Just imagine having to deliver that line. Just go, if you're having trouble sleeping tonight, close your eyes and just go like, imagine having to say to someone, Papa Poutine put a hit on you.
Most earnest seriousness. Like, you're in danger from the cheese curds and fries, man.
Ooh, I do want poutine.
I mentioned this to you as we were walking around, but naming a Canadian mobster Papa Poutine is like naming a mobster from Italy like Mario Spaghetti.
It is. Mr. Lasagna.
That's right.
Okay, love you. Bye.